I'd like to welcome André Aciman and Jeannette Montgomery Barron to this really exciting Zoom about their book, Roman Hours. We'd all like to thank Ivorypress for their really remarkable production, their attention to detail. The experience could not have been more enjoyable from what I could tell. First off, for you two, how was the experience of creating this book?
The top, the best.
Is it okay, André?
It was, you know what, it came from the gut.
Right.
And usually I distrust anything that comes from, from your instincts. I try to hone them down, I change them. But this was just Rome the way I like it. I called it elsewhere, it's the incidental Rome, the one that everybody adores. Right. And we're sick and tired of the big monuments. I'm tired of them. And this was about moments in Rome that everyone loves.
It's the quietest book. I mean, it's a funny book because you read it and you're really drawn from the first page straight through with this kind of odd, quirky narrative that both of you create. André, you've got this narrative, which is obviously taken from notes. In a funny way, Jeannette, your photographs are also visual notes, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, they're notes I take on the way to walking to the market, food market, or to do an errand or whatever, and going back to the idea of photographing Rome, it's a very intimidating thing, because it's been done. It's really been done. But I think...
If they had done a subtitle, couldn't it have been Roman Hours, Roman Light Sucks? Wouldn't that have been really good? I mean, let's talk about the light. To start with the light. Jeannette, you talk about it first, then André.
Well, it's golden. It makes you feel so good. It makes you feel like the world's okay because you've got that golden light.
Right.
And for me, it's heaven. And I don't even know. I mean, I was walking, I took it out. I was walking with this. And all I did was scribble notes about moments in Rome. I don't know why I was scribbling them down. I had no idea why, but I just felt that as I'm walking on a Saturday night in Rome, it's actually Saturday evening, and the market is closed on Campo dei Fiori, and I'm walking and I'm seeing so many people in the streets, and most of them are Italians, and it feels like Christmas. And it felt wonderful. I said, great, I'm in the right place because I love Christmas.
You're a Jew who loves Christmas.
I adore Christmas because it doesn't really belong to me, but I love to participate. I know all the carols anyway, so but it felt like this is the thing about Rome, that it always feels like a subdued holiday. You're on holiday all the time. You want to absorb everything. In your case, Jeannette, your pictures are like tables, of moments, of walls. The walls are so stunning and there's nothing to them. It's just dust, but they're beautiful. And I told you that. I mean, I just love the colors. I love the light. And I have to say that I like the way the people react to you. You go to a place, you want to buy some bread for some reason, and they have a million types of bread. So you're hesitating because you don't know the names for most of them. Right. But so you point, and they're very accommodating, and they understand they're in a rush, but they want to help you. And so you walk home with a piece of bread that you're eating on the way home anyway. So
yeah.
But isn't there like a little subtext, which is, as you're eating that bread, you're saying this moment, which is passing, is such an important moment. I think in both of your works, one of the things that I see is you share this incredible melancholy, this longing for the moment that is here and then is gone. Jeannette, I mean, this is a very big part about how you go through life, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, well, I've told this story before, but when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, sitting in my school cafeteria in Atlanta, Georgia, I was batting my eyes, taking pictures with my eyes, thinking I'm storing up images for when I go to heaven. Now, I don't know why I wanted to remember the school cafeteria, but it's really, it's been a big part of my life since I've...
You, André, the same, wouldn't you say?
Well, it's weird because I always complain in everything I write. I always complain that I'm never in the moment. I'm always in the future, in the past, in some kind of weird dimension of time. In Rome, there are moments when you're walking in Rome and let's say it's 10 o'clock in the morning, it's sunny, people are doing things, you know, they're working, but there are so many people in the streets. And you're saying to yourself, okay, this is fabulous. I'm not supposed to enjoy it in the moment because I'm superstitious. Something bad is going to happen. But it is fantastic. I'm so happy to be here and ultimately to be alive here.
Right. I mean, I would say that when we moved to Rome, and Jeannette and I moved with our family, with Ben and Isabel, I'd say the first 2 weeks, I honestly felt that I had died and gone to heaven, that maybe there was like a car crash that I had gotten in, and that in that instant flash, I'd gotten to this place that I really wanted to be in life. Jeannette, did you have something of the same feeling?
Oh, yeah. I thought I never want to go back to my other life. This is it.
Well, until the Trump era, of course, we really want to be here now, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But both of you share another thing, which is this sense of perfume, which kind of permeates both the words, the written words, and the fragrance in Jeanette's photographs. Do you both see that affinity?
I think it's there. It's definitely there. Rome has a very, you know, like Paris has a very recognizable smell. New York has two smells. It's a smell of, I mean, it's an amazing sense because on one hand, you have those people selling breakfast in the morning in carts in the street. And so you can smell the bacon and you're walking and you're among skyscrapers. Bacon and skyscrapers don't go together. But in Rome, you have this sense of, there's a sense that the scents give you a sense of plenitude. It's not that you smell pasta or you smell sauce or you smell this and that, but there's a smell of the ground, of those cobblestones or whatever it is, of marble, which is everywhere, and the smell of clay. The smell of clay, I just adore it. I've got to show you. Well, Jeannette, you speak. I got to show that picture.
And also, like I saw onion sauteing. You know that smell of onion,
right?
It's in somebody's pan, and you're getting a whiff. It's coming out the window, and
oh
yeah. My gosh, they're making a great tomato sauce.
Right. You know that.
I know.
The funny thing about, I think my perception of Rome versus living in America is, over here, you still have this calibration of power and money and status and all this stuff and the bigger apartment and all that. Over there, my sensibility, of course, this is an American in Rome, which is different than a Roman in Rome, and we should really get to that. But is that it's about the moment, walking down the street, holding like elbow in elbow, slowly. Okay, let's talk about slowness. Jeannette, would you talk about that, and also maybe in relation to Atlanta, and then maybe Andre into your early youth?
Well, yeah, I think one of the reasons I felt so comfortable in Rome is there is a shared sensibility. I mean, the slowness, the warmth of the people.
Jeannette, excuse me, lean forward because you're breaking up slightly.
Oh,
okay, thank you.
The warmth of the people, the smells too, the cooking. I think, you know, and the light, some of the light is very similar, but there's something I just felt very immediately comfortable in Rome, something very familiar to me.
Yeah, Andre?
It is very comfortable. I mean, you mentioned something about the Italians in Rome because they're not always happy to be in Rome because life in Italy is not an easy thing. It's filled with, and it's your will constantly, when you want something, your will is constantly pounding against somebody else's will. And they sort of hit you back. But by and large, I think they're soft people. They're if they're aggressive, it's a muted aggression. It's all nice. And you don't feel that you want to take it out on someone in Rome. It's absolutely no way. I once lost my earphones in a bar, and I went back to the bar. They were still on the floor an hour later, you know, and I picked them. I said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I'm just picking those up because I left them here." And I said, "Oh my God, this is terrible." I mean, they emote. And this is the thing about Rome, is that everybody is in touch with their emotions. which
Right.
is not something that we know how to do always. So I understand that living with emotions all the time can be very difficult. But when you're visiting Rome, even when you're visiting for 6 months, it's a different business. You know, this is not going to last forever, and you want to suck everything out.
But that's an important point, this lasting forever. Because as you're walking down the street, you know, if you could kick your heel down about 6 inches, you can start getting into some ruins. I mean, when they start to build a building, they go down and then, you know, they bring in the scientists with the microscopes and they have to figure out, okay, is this a normal ruin or is this an extraordinary palazzo that we have to, you know, excavate? Do either of you have the book there? Can you hold it up?
I can get it.
Okay.
This one here or the other one?
That's it, that book, in Roman Hours. So if you could hold it so they could see the entire book, both of you, that's a nice shot. What I'd like to point out is it's almost a book that you feel you could put, if you have a sport jacket, you could put it in the pocket. And you could be walking around Rome, experiencing Rome and pull it out, read a couple of lines, look at a few pictures.
Yeah.
Don't you think the design is absolutely brilliant?
Well, and I think that's the brilliance of, you know, this is the first in the Ivorypress Cities series, which is, you know, fantastic.
Right. So it's a series on cities, which is interesting. And of course, starting with Rome makes so much sense.
Totally.
I once had this really funny experience where I'd been working with a gallery that had a quarter of the Picasso estate, and they shipped over this crate, and we were looking for a Picasso notebook from 1905. It's a blue period notebook. And it turned out, after we unraveled everything, it was about this big, and it was curved. Picasso had it in his back pocket. He'd sat at cafes. I get the same feeling from this book. It's like both of you traveling slowly, walking slowly through Rome. Andre, you were walking and you would just stop and write notes, right?
Oh yeah, because you can't even read them because they're so scribbled badly.
That's going to be volume 2. Is going to be the transcript.
And you know, me, I tried to photograph Rome with every.
I mean, I could show you a picture. I mean, this is.
That's great.
I tore it out. But I mean, it's gibberish, you know?
Yeah.
So Jeannette, tell us about how you would walk around taking these pictures.
Well, I tried photographing Rome with a medium format camera, with you know, everything. But I found what really worked for me is having my iPhone in my back pocket all the time, because I wasn't going out looking for images. When I saw an image, I pull my camera out in my phone and take a picture. So for me, that was a different method of working.
Can you also talk, you know, I've watched you take pictures. I've seen you hold the iPhone up ready to take a picture and then not take it. Right. Even though the frame is for free and you could also delete it. But let's talk about that, because I see similarity in your work and Andre's precision. Andre, what I'm getting at is you once described how you write a sentence and you go, oy vey, it's not good enough. And you do another one, you go back and write. So Jeannette, can you talk about that process of not taking a picture that's there even to see what it looks like?
I think it goes back to my training at ICP, where I was taught to edit in the camera, not after. And I think I don't want to have to deal with that messed up image after. I know it's going to be bad, so why even take it? You know, just leave it out.
Andre, you?
Well, for a writer, it's exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. You jot down something feeling, this is stupid, okay? But then you go back home and you say, you know, there was at least a couple of words there that suggested how much of an impact that particular moment had. Right. And so I extrapolated, I bring it up, I add something, and eventually you want to make, as the book is, you want to make every moment in Rome like a sort of transient haiku. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to capture those little things. Yeah. But you have to work at them. And in other words, you to look at the notebook, say, this is an incomplete idea. Whereas a photographer, as you said, you edit as you're taking the picture. That's it. There's no more editing to be done. For a writer, it's like you're constantly saying that word was stupid, that was ugly. I'm losing it. So you go back to it. So
Well, I know about that losing it thing. I know all about that. Happens to me all the time. I lost it.
Both of you, I think it's about very, very little moments. For example, Andre, there's the moment you're talking about where a woman gets off a motorino and she takes off her helmet and shakes her head. And you're talking about it afterward, that you don't remember her face, you remember her shaking her hair. Mm-hmm. I've had that so many times in Rome, just like with Jeannette. There are so many little moments. You're walking through Piazza Farnese at night and you see the shadows from an iron grill to a tiny church that you go in. So you're not exalting the big moment, walking into the church and seeing the nuns who get up and chirp and, you know, do these incredible little hymns. You're talking about this fleeting thing. Can you both talk about that a bit?
Well,
Jeannette, why don't you start?
I'm sorry?
Jeannette, do you want to start on that? About talking about
you start.
Okay. Well, I think the fleeting moment if you look at life in general, it's made up of only fleeting moments. Mm-hmm. And some of them may seem to have no meaning, but I think that's the job of anybody, a photographer, a painter, a musician, a writer. It's that you want to take that fleeting moment and make it, first of all, permanent. And you want to also make it universal. In other words, everybody can say, I've seen that tablecloth, but I never paid attention. Or I've thought this as I was walking in Rome, and I never paid attention, and you're giving it back to me. I mean, that's what the fleeting moment is so, especially in modernist art for the past century. It's always about taking something that is clearly insignificant and magnifying it to the point where it becomes moments of life, of sort of luminescence. And we try to do that.
We try to do it. I've been photographing this my favorite tree on our property, which always loses its leaves for the first tree on the whole property. And I'm photographing it every day because I just want to remember it. It's changing so drastically every day. Probably in 2 days it won't have leaves anymore.
Well, you know, as far as impermanence, there's something that I see as a common thread between both of your work, which is something that appears in this book, which is death, which is the permanent. And Andre, I think you state, like, if I were to die, this is where I would die. Jeannette, I know you've stated that to me a zillion times. I mean, this is leaving, of course, the logistics of how to get a body out of Rome.
Well, just put me on a plane. Get me on the plane.
But, with all the tubes and everything, put me on the plane. As soon as I land, I'll die in Rome.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully not at the airport, but I get somewhere else.
And the best thing about dying in Rome is
food.
Get the food.
You get a good last meal.
Hey, good wine, good meat, sure. But I want to be buried in the Protestant cemetery. It is the most peaceful spot on earth. I've never been in a place that feels so, it's not in a city, it's not anywhere, it's already in heaven. And that's why it's the most peaceful moment I've ever experienced in my life, is walking into that cemetery. And forget about Shelley, forget about Keats, I don't care. It's just the cemetery is the most suave, sort of soothing place that I know.
You too, Jeannette?
Yeah, I'd be happy to be there. That'd be fine. Andre, we should arrange this.
Well, the contrast, of course, and I think that you both pick up on it, is that, you know, a few hundred yards away is the cacophony of motorini going around Piramide, which is, you know, this incredible pyramid. And it's like a source of who is got enough dare to come out of their lane and go around this thing without getting hit. I mean, I've biked around that thing several thousand times, and it really is an incredible achievement. But would you think, either of you, that you've talked about that, the contrast of Rome as the peaceful place where you want to die, but also the place where the bureaucracy is horrible, the traffic is horrible, there's exhaust? Jeannette, do you think that's in your pictures?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about dying with that golden light. I'm not thinking about, you know, all the red tape. I'm lying down dying in this golden light. And I don't care about anything else. I don't care who's president or whatever.
I feel the same way. I was not interested in the cacophony of Rome in certain spots. I mean, look at it. The pyramid itself is where there's a train station called the Pyramid. And that train station, I used to take it to go to the beach sometimes.
We did too. We always did.
Yeah. And it's a terrible place. It's not a pretty place. And yet adjacent to it, a couple of steps away, is this heavenly spot called the Protestant or the un-Catholic cemetery, where Jews and Protestants and people who are not of the faith, the Catholic faith, are buried. And it has something very quiet about it. But there's something else I wanted to say, is that there's a picture you took, Jeannette, of two elderly ladies walking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've seen that. I've lived that, you know. Yeah. And they walk also arm in arm.
They do. Probably not right now.
Well, right now they're very good about not touching each other right now.
It's been very good.
But these old ladies are walking arm in arm, and you know they're talking all the time. And there's something amazing about them because they're well dressed. They're probably running a few errands or going for a walk together in the middle of the city. And there's something timeless about them. And it's a moment that I've seen and lived through and watched. And I love to have something that I know so well given back to me, to the point where I slap my head and said, why didn't I ever think of these two? You know, this is what I think those momentary moments do for us, is that they force us to slap our forehead and say, I've seen this, I know this, but I never thought of it.
And they're just two women who've known each other, it looks like, for ages.
Yes.
Taking a walk right past the Pantheon in the afternoon.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Why not? You know.
You know what they're probably talking about? Food.
Spaghetti vongole.
Food.
No. I'll tell you what they're really talking about. They're probably two mother-in-laws of each other's children, and they probably hate each other. They know how to be nice to each other, or they're ratting about somebody else. Because there's always that human thing in Rome, about Romans especially, is that they always are aware of what their real feelings are. Mm-hmm. They know how to couch them, they know how to hide them, but they're always about, if you tape record Romans speaking, they're going to be speaking about their feelings. Right. How they feel about X, how they feel about this particular thing, how they feel about that food. It's always their feelings. It's never, very seldom, about substantive business things.
Yeah.
You know what this book is to me, and it comes through in both your writing, André, and Jeanette's photographs. It's like this little bubble. You see this in Rome sometimes, where someone's out there and they're making these bubbles, and you see it floating up, and eventually it's going to pop. But it's even more powerful now during COVID because we can't go there. It's almost like you remember the movie Spinal Tap, when they've got 10 on the amp, but there's 11? It's almost like this book is even more powerful. It's gone from 10 to 11 because it's how we're experiencing Rome right now by not being there.
And this is one of the first Octobers, because October is one of the most beautiful months in Rome. That one of the first Octobers, I've not been there since 2003. And I'm having a great October here in Connecticut, but I'm thinking about Rome in October.
You, André, you thinking about Rome?
Of course I am. In fact, the other day I was listening to some music that came on my shuffle, and it was not sung, but it was an Italian song, and immediately I'm transported to, the Trastevere, where I like to hang out a lot, and I'm feeling I should be there. I've been in Rome, I think, for the past 4 years, every autumn.
Right.
For one reason or another. And I miss it. It's like my life right now is not in New York City on 109th Street. It's really in Trastevere, up there. So at the American Academy, which I adore. So.
Yeah. Jeanette, you?
Me too. I love the Academy too. Walking up the hill.
Yeah.
And then having lunch or seeing an exhibition or whatever.
There's a photograph you took, Jeanette, where just around a bend with this beautiful Roman wall of a palazzo, there's the hint of a bicycle and bicycle wheel.
Yeah.
And the book with both of you, it's not just nostalgia. It's like I'm walking and there's this momentary thing, this fleeting thing. I'm going to be seeing a bike. I see just the hint of it.
Well, I'll tell you, that was on the way to my Pilates class. Right, no, on Via del Gesù, but yeah, I saw it. It was one morning. I got my iPhone, so yeah.
It's amazing, and so I want to show this because for me it's an abstract picture, but it's stunning. For me, it is.
It's okay.
It's a picture. It's the picture of the cover of the book too. It's that wonderful color ochre. You see it in many Italian cities, but it doesn't resonate with me in Italian cities, only in Rome. You touch the wall and the dust is on you. The chalk is in your hands.
And it's the heat. It's the heat in the summer that's taking a toll on the wall.
I know, and you forget the sound of the fountain that's next to the wall.
Right.
And I mean, there's so many small things like that that make life amazing.
Maybe 6 months before Milton Gendel, the photographer, died at a very, very old age, 98 or something like that. I said to him, he'd lived in Rome for 50 years.
Wow.
And I said, what is it you love most about Rome? And like that, he said, walls. Wow. And I said, really? He said, I'm in love with the walls. I mean, there's a lot of it in both of your, in the writing, Andre, and in Jeannette, in your photos. And then Andre picks the picture, the fold out of the wall.
Well, and there's another, I call it the Cy Twombly wall. And I wonder if Cy had walked past here. I can't go.
Come in a little bit closer for the camera, please. Yeah, there we go.
Every time I go to Rome, I have to photograph this wall. It's changed, some of the names have changed. And actually they were doing some construction on the bottom of the building. So I don't know what it's going to be like when I get back, but that's a wall that I love.
But there it is again. There's the longing of this thing that's passing. It's the graffiti, it's the incision into a wall, and one day it's going to be gone. And I think both of you share this thing of longing for it. Even when it's there, you're fearing it's going to be gone. It's
going to be gone. Oh, yeah. This is the biggest irony about Rome, because Rome is eternal, okay? And yet here I am constantly, maybe it's by sort of reflection that I'm thinking, I'm not going to be eternal, and I'm going to lose this, or this is going to be taken away from me. It's going to disappear. And I hate that feeling. I hate that feeling. Talking about walls, there's something else about walls. I've written in another book about walls. I mean, most of us have kissed someone against the wall.
Oh, yeah.
In Rome, okay? And what is it about a kiss against the wall in Rome that makes it eternal? I have no idea. But you remember it for the rest of your life. You may forget the person's name. You may forget everything. But it's that wall that is amazing.
Jeannette, can you talk about that just a little bit more?
Kissing on a wall?
No, not kissing on a wall, but this thing about that the walls are there. You feel the heat of them in the summer, kind of the dankness in November, December with the rain. The walls are important to you in your work, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sure I've photographed more walls, but yeah, it's just they tell stories. What's happened in front of that wall, who's walked past.
I want to get to in a minute maybe I'll get to this now. Can each of you tell me how you got to Rome? Why don't you start?
Me?
Yeah.
I went to Rome when I was 5 with my family. And it's funny, I remember a lot of things about that trip. But then went back, I think the first time I went back was in my 20s. I was working a bit as a photographer doing portraits, and I passed through Rome. And then James, you and I went many, many times together for the summers, August usually. And then we moved to Rome in 2003 together as a family with our kids. And that's really.
And stayed 11 years full time.
Yep.
So Andre, how about you? How did you get to Rome?
Oh, I got to Rome because I think my father had managed to get an Italian citizenship. We were living in Egypt, and eventually we got expelled from Egypt. And so we were refugees in Italy. And I had an uncle who let us use one of his apartments in Rome, in a neighborhood that I've never been fond of, though now it's kind of middle class. And I have to say, I'm sorry?
What's the neighborhood, Andre?
It was near the Alberone, which is on Appia Nuova, which there was nothing fancy about it. But I hated Rome. I hated Rome thoroughly. Didn't want to be there. So I would shut myself up in my bedroom, and I would read about other places, Russia. I was big on Russian novels because that was really far away from Rome. And eventually I would take walks in Rome, sometimes to go to a bookstore. And in the walks themselves, I realized there was something I liked about Rome, but I didn't want to admit it to myself. And eventually, after seeing, for some reason, the movie The Leopard, which takes place in Sicily, but somehow it made me find in Rome Sicilian moments. It's this kind of juxtaposition of many things. And eventually, in finding this fake Sicily in Rome, I began to allow myself to get to love Rome. And then one day when I saw, it was around Easter, Palm Sunday, in fact, and I was on Piazza di Spagna with my parents, and I could see so many flowers, so many pots of flowers along the whole Spanish Steps, all the way up. And I said, this is fantastic. This is unbeatable. I think I like Rome better than Paris, I told myself, which was a very hard admission to make. And now I go back all the time. I mean, any invitation from anything Italian, I'll go in a second.
Me too. And I love Paris too, though. But Rome wins for me.
Well, isn't there sort of this feeling, isn't there this feeling when you first get back to Rome as an American? Well, I know I have this. I want to just fall on my knees and I want to kiss the cobblestones. I'm like, oh my God, all this tumult, all this effort of living here succumbs to this moment of bliss, of absolute bliss. Jeannette, you have that too?
Well, yeah, and I wanted to add that usually when I get on the plane from Rome to New York, I immediately watch La Grande Bellezza, right. And the Great Beauty, because for me, that's just, it's a perfect picture of Rome.
It is. It's actually perfect.
It's perfect. Yeah.
But interestingly,
I think.
That's a picture of Rome by an Italian. And interestingly, it was not very well received by the Italians. They were like, we're not anything like that. Oh, how could he do that? He disgraced us. We look like assholes. But for an American, it looked pretty accurate, right?
Well, for an American who has been to parties like that, I mean, not quite that wild, but there's a way of living there that, and the outfit, the jackets that he's wearing, I've seen all that. It's all true. It's all true. And the housekeeper who's sort of like his mother, and it's just a perfect picture of Rome.
Andre?
I think that Rome is, for me, I mean, it reminds me that there are certain places on planet Earth where people know how to live.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to be a millionaire to know how to live, but they make a feast out of everything. I remember one day I was with my Italian cousins and we were to the beach, and we went to one of those public beaches, and it was filled with Romans, filled with people that you couldn't even find a space where we had brought cakes and food and so much, as all Italians do. You have to have food at the beach. And at some point he said to me, okay, we found a table. We're going to stand and eat at the table. And he said, I know this is not perfect, but I'm very happy. And I said, you know what? I'm happy too.
Oh.
You make a feast out of everything because they do know how to live. The rich certainly know how to live. They throw the most magnificent parties, and you don't need to have the best caviar, the best this, the best that. It's always the atmosphere, the fact that we're going to enjoy ourselves, and we might gorge ourselves as well, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's not the typical cocktail party where you're stiff and after 40 minutes you think maybe it's time to go. Here you want to stay, and they do stay, as you all know, till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
You know what's so funny about those parties is, you know, if it's a catered event and there's a big group of people and you're all standing around having drinks, and then the pasta is served. And it's like, oh my God, there's pasta. It's here. Let's go have it right now. It's like brand new to them every time.
It's like that expression in Rome, you know, you wait for the pasta doesn't wait for you. But I remember we were walking to a party once, Jeannette, and there were two men who were arm in arm, you know, elbow in elbow, which I love, because here it would be considered, you know, what's going on here. And they were having this conversation, said, do you think we're going to have mozzarella di bufala? And it's like, si. And then, you know, do you think we're going to have pasta? Ecco, si. It was the funniest thing. But Andre, I mean, obviously your Italian is incredible. Festeggiare, it's kind of a nice word, don't you think?
It is. It's very nice. It means more than just to feast, because to feast is grand. It's a grand feast. But to festeggiare, you can do it on a Sunday afternoon with your family, which most Italians do, by the way. Sunday noon afternoon is when you all sit together with all the generations in the family. That's also a way to live, not just us. It's everybody that belongs to the clan comes. And there's something wonderful about that. So,
Jeannette?
I'm just thinking how much I miss it.
Yes, that's right.
I was actually in the room as you were describing it, Andre. I'm in that room with the pasta and all the generations of people.
Isn't it amazing? And it feels, I hate to use the word, it feels so natural. What happened to me, I always ask myself, that I can't sit in a cafe for more than 10 minutes? Why can't I do that any longer? And they can do it for hours and speak with people, and they address strangers all the time. And I love that. Also the fact that we love their walls, but they don't have walls between people. People touch all the time. I also want to say something else about Rome, is that the people are beautiful. I mean, forget the very, very old ladies who are sort of come from the country sometimes, but everybody that you walk into the streets, they are beautiful. They have amazing skin. I don't understand how Italians do that. Their skin is always luminous. It's brilliant. It's sort of shiny. It's so nice. Maybe, I don't know if they wash all the time or whatever they do, but there's something. Their children are beautiful. The adults are beautiful. Everybody's beautiful. I mean, yeah, you have the exception. But the numbers are amazing.
Maybe it's the olive oil.
It could be the olive oil.
Since both of you, the process was, Jeannette, you walking around, taking pictures, letting them sit for a while, almost like letting them stew in like a sauce on the oven. Andre, you took these notes. I'm thinking about how you retrieved these and then it coalesced into this kind of perfect little gem. It reminds me of, there's a great story of Cézanne where he was painting something, it was very fleeting. He was recording like woods with, you know, mountains, and he hated it. And he took the canvas and he threw it, and it landed in some shrubs outside of his studio. And then it went through the winter, and he went outside and he pulled it back in the spring and said, you know what? It's pretty good. And it became something that he recognized. Would you say, Jeannette, is that something when you're looking back at your photographs that you can identify?
Yes. I mean, sometimes I know immediately I have a good photograph. Then other times, you know, it's something maybe I took 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and I'm the same with my other bodies of work. But, yeah, I think that that's really true. And with the process of the book, that also happened. There was an initial set of photographs, Andre, you saw.
Yeah.
Then about a year later, I added more, and because I just thought, wait, there's more. And I actually like this one. I'm going to add it to the mix. And that's
Same with you, Andre? Similar process?
The process was, I mean, for me, it was all a fluke, really, which I love when that happens, and very seldom happens. But I was basically, just excuse me a second. I got it. I'm just going to turn this off. Actually, I wrote those notes, and I think it must have been months later that I looked at them because I was homesick and I wanted to see what is it that I had caught of Rome. And then I realized that I wanted to sort of write them out. I wanted to expand them or sort of sometimes tighten them up. And for example, that walk I took one evening on Via dei Giubbonari next to Piazza del Campo dei Fiori was for me a moment there was nothing precise about it, but I knew it had captured a feeling I had walking down that street on my way to my home, which was sort of a Airbnb. And I caught that, and months later I looked at it again. I said, let me fix it. Let me make whatever that feeling was permanent. And I think for a writer, I think that's really the trick, is you take this incidental moment that you had on the street and you take it and you work it into the point where you don't alter it, but you make it something that is permanent, so that in 10 years, if I look at those notes, they will mean nothing to me. But if I look at how I transcribe them, they will capture the Rome that I knew 10 years earlier.
That's beautiful. Beautiful.
Jeannette, similar with you?
Yeah, I would say so. You know, if it's, I mean, just sitting in my files, you know, and gathering dust, then nothing happens. But you turn it into a book.
Yeah.
You know, I think maybe we'll end with the beginning, which is how the book kicked off. I was actually at the breakfast table, two of you having coffee, me drinking a kombucha. And Andre, can you tell us what your exact words, do you remember what they were? Because I do otherwise.
Please remind me, because I've forgotten about it.
You said to Jeannette, let's do a book together.
Oh.
And then Jeannette said, do you remember Jeannette?
I said, yeah, let's do it.
But then you both said, you looked at each other and said, Rome. It was like that. It was like a little click. And then how amazing that Andre, your agent Lynn Nesbitt, who's, you know, a miracle worker, a matchmaker for books with publishers, brought you all to Ivory. Now, Jeannette and I went to Madrid. Honestly, I felt like I had died and gone to heaven. We were in a room with all women, all very brilliant women, creative. The sense of care and attention to detail, the paper, the typeface, how the words and the images were going to fit together. Jeannette, when we looked through the book, the selection, I think you wanted to make only one change.
One change.
One photo. I mean,
and they did it.
For anybody who's ever tried to do a book with a publisher, with editors, this stands as the most unusual thing I've ever seen. The book, it's almost like it germinated from this moment of peace at our kitchen table in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And then it grew, it morphed. It's like you had the perfect curators to curate your words, Andre, and Jeannette, your images together. So I hate to use the same word, but it coalesced into this little gem where you feel as though I, reading it, thought, I'm being pulled from the beginning to the end. There's not a word I would want to change. There's not one photograph I want to change. It has the sense of the fleeting beauty of Rome and the wish to die in Rome. I mean, it's a very, very strange and beautiful book. Anything either of you want to add, or should we just, Andre, anything you would want to add?
That before I die in that golden light, I want a big plate of pasta vongole.
What type of pasta will it be, Jeannette?
Vongole.
Okay. Andre?
I'm not a big fan of vongole, but I think that the book came, it was like, nobody's going to want to do this book. It's just a few words here, great photographs. But what they've done is that they decided not necessarily to accompany the text with the photographs. It wasn't the sort of the intentional graft. You know, I write about X and there's a picture of X here. It was not that kind of a book. It was itself. So it respected the incidental nature of the whole of our feelings about Rome, of our walks in Rome, of what we love about Rome. Everything is incidental in the best sense of the word. In other words, it captures moments that would fleet in a second if we hadn't taken a picture or written it down.
Jeannette, you feel the same?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that was just brilliant that they had that flow and it didn't match up.
Yeah.
To read the reader, because it's different than you two as the creators of this book, it's a book of two people wandering through the streets of Rome. And they're each on a parallel journey, which is so interesting. It's, Andre, your words go from the beginning to the end, and either reader couldn't stop waiting to read the next fleeting impression. Then Jeannette, your images, it's as though the complete sensation of turning a corner and seeing something for that long. It's there, it's gone, and wanting to hold it in. I guess I would close saying congratulations to both of you. Congratulations to Ivory for this remarkable accomplishment. I'm trying to think of an achievement of a collaboration between a writer and a photographer that was done so well, so interestingly, with independence of voice, but the two voices meshing. And I honestly can't think of it. So for everybody out there, I hope that you will have the wherewithal to grab a copy of this book, put it in your back pocket. When we can travel, go to Rome, pull it out, look at it when you're on the street, and have that experience, your own experience. That I hope this book prompts those experiences in you. And once again, thank you to both of you and to Ivory.
Thank you, all of everybody, down to Elena Foster as well, who has been behind this project, I think from the very, very beginning. So I'm extremely happy, and everybody at Ivory has been fantastic.
It's perfect. It's just perfect, and thank you, everyone.
All right. On that, thank you all. Okay. Bye.